One of the big things coming up for the New York Jets is the historic 2022 draft class getting the bag. And well, we had some scientific tubing and all kinds of other technology was happening to determine how much money is Sauce Gardner going to get. We got a very special guest to tell us exactly how much it is. He's got a crystal ball. He already knows what's going to happen, and he's going to inform the rest of us. Let's roll and find out.
It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rodgers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Please hold your applause, for God's sakes. I do the show every day, for Pete's sake. Live at 7:30 in the morning. Hey, everybody, I'm Paul Eston Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video program, also available wherever you get your podcast. It's been a hot second since we've had this guy on the show, and any excuse we could get him on the program is a good day for me. So let's bring him in. This is Moton of Bleacher Report, gracing us with his presence this morning. Good morning, Mo.
Good morning, Paul. I will say this at the top of the show. Again, you are the only person that can get me up at 7:30 Eastern time to do a show. So the only one, and I actually mean that.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. By the way, I've never asked you this, I guess, but you're in Raider Nation, correct?
I'm in Raider Nation via New York City. So I'm in Raider Nation on the East Coast. So this 7:30 is a real 7:30. It's not 4:30 on the West Coast, but 7:30 is still early for East Coasters like me.
That's true. That's a good point. That very much so. By the way, Mo, I've never asked you this. This is going to be a very weird start to the show, I guess, because I always see it when I see your articles. Like, because it doesn't, when I'm like, I love latest Bleacher Report article for my guy, Mr. Moton, it doesn't say Mo Moton. So is that like your birth certificate name? Is that like, hey, only my close personal friends call me that name that is written on the Bleacher Report website? What's the story there?
So I was born Maurice Brian Moton, but I shortened it to Mo because Mo sounds cooler. It's a lot shorter, has a nice ring to it. And when I say my Twitter, MOEMOTON, you hear that ring to it. Now, if I say MAURICEMOTON, doesn't sound the same. So shortened it to Mo for the people in the industry, and people that know me also call me Mo.
Okay. All right. Good. All right. Then I am one of the people that know you. Nice. Okay. I'm in the club, baby. And by the way, for all the people that are talking about the famous coffee club, the YouTube membership group is the Boy Green Coffee Club. So feel free to join. Hit that join button on your local YouTube page, and you can join this elite and exclusive group. But with that being said, Mo, let's dive into the deep end of this poll. And this was an article you wrote a couple of weeks ago. You were prognosticating some of the massive contracts that could be around the corner. Now, Sauce Gardner, the number one cornerback in football, he can't get paid until next offseason. So no matter, even if the Jets wanted to pay him right now, according to the CBA, they're not allowed to. So this is one that is coming down the pike in the future, but one I'm sure the Jets want to jump on top of because, as we're seeing with quarterback contracts last night, the market evolves. Trevor Lawrence just tied Joe Burrow for the highest paid on a per-year basis. So I'm sure from the quarterback perspective, they just want to get on that early, sooner rather than later. But I'm curious, your thought process as you're putting this article together for some of these big contracts, including Sauce, where you put a $110 million deal on the table, which would be record-breaking in a lot of ways for the New York Jets.
So basically, the premise of the article was who should be the highest paid at every position. And I went through all the positions, got to cornerback, and to me, it was a very easy decision. Sauce Gardner, as I wrote in the piece, 2 All-Pro seasons in his first 2 years, hasn't been done since the AFL-NFL merger. He's a guy that, while he doesn't have the interceptions, quarterbacks don't throw at him very much. He was targeted 86 times as a rookie. That number dropped to about 55, 56 times last year. So the ultimate respect, while he doesn't get those interceptions, as Asante Samuel was pointing out, the ultimate respect is when quarterbacks won't even look your direction. They don't even want to try Sauce Gardner. And it's not because DJ Reed isn't that good. It's because they don't want to give up an interception. They don't want to have an incomplete pass. They don't want to kill a drive looking to Sauce Gardner's side of the field. So he is going to get paid, regardless of what Asante Samuel had to say about his interceptions. Look at the advanced numbers. Look at the allowed of completion percentage he's allowing, under 57% in both years and under 81 passer rating in both years. So if you look deeper beyond the surface numbers, you can see that Sauce Gardner is that dude, and he's going to be paid. And if you're Sauce Gardner's agent, you're looking at Denzel Ward's contract, which is at the top of the ladder right now for cornerbacks at about a little over $100 million, about $71.25 million guaranteed. Sauce Gardner is going to top that. And as you said, 5 years, $110 million, $75 million guaranteed seems like where he's going to land next offseason.
Now, I'm curious, Mo, because you get to bring both your Raiders perspective, and I'm sorry you have to do that, and also a national perspective to the table, which I find interesting, from the outside looking in. When you look at corners like Sauce, and I don't mean it like Sauce Gardner, the individual, like the ones that, for the most part, stay on one side, or they're not moving around, long story short. They're not normally doing that. We'll get to that in a second on some changes we could see. Do you look at them differently, like some of the old school corners that were traveling, like almost like, I don't want to say a disdain, that's probably too aggressive of a word, but you put them in a separate evaluation bucket because they're not being on the number one receiver. When teams played the Jets, and to your point of getting away targets, are like, we got Justin Jefferson. Do I put him over here with Sauce, or do I put him on the other side? Yeah, I'm going to put him on the other side. And then they fed him a lot, and then Sauce is over there guarding, with all due respect, like KJ Osborne or something. So does that affect your evaluation? Like, we're not really seeing the full Sauce here because he's only staying on one side.
I don't let that impact my evaluation too much. I remember this discussion came up with Richard Sherman in Seattle during the Legion Boom days, where he was on one side of the field, basically a zone corner, as you would say. Not a man-to-man guy, but a zone corner who's on one side of the field. I will say, when you have a zone corner who could shut down one side of the field, is that not a valuable asset? Let's not downplay the impact of a corner who could stay on one side of the field and force you to be a little more predictable on offense. Now, we'll see in the upcoming season, as you alluded to, Salah indicated via Rich Cimini that they may have Sauce Gardner travel with number one wide receivers. Not exclusively, but he may do that. So he's going to see more. If that is the case, he's going to see more targets. And I don't think that's going to be a problem for him. So that also goes into my evaluation that he can play man coverage. We saw that in Cincinnati. He has the tools to play man and zone. He has that versatility. So I don't see that there being a drop off, even if he is on the number one wide receiver a lot more in the upcoming season and in years beyond.
Does that speak to the money? So, like right now, Sauce is on his rookie contract, and this may be too in the weeds, but on his rookie contract, all right, Sauce, do whatever you do. You're again the first team All-Pro, first 2 seasons. It hasn't been done in the modern era, and that's great. But when they pay him this bag of, as projection, again, there's a direct link to the article down below of like $110 million. Like, whoa, mama. Okay, we need to get our bang for our buck. All right, Sauce. Grab your luggage. You're going to be traveling around, pal. You're left side, right side, this side, that side. He even did it. It's funny because, like, in his first game ever, I was at that game in MetLife Stadium. It was Jets-Ravens. They put him on Mark Andrews. First assignment out of the door. Slap on the ass. Okay, Sass. Shut down Mark Andrews. You're like, well, all right, I guess. So, there was a lot of that action happening early on, but then they kind of got away from that and just kind of played him most of the time just at a normal cornerback position. Do you think that is part of the motivation for the Jets to start using Sauce in these ways that they had? Like Robert Saleh and Jeff Oberg said, like when us reporters, hey, you think Sauce can travel? He's like, shut up. No, he's not going to travel. This is our defense. We don't believe in that. What are you, an idiot? And we're like, oh, okay, sorry. And then this offseason, finally, out of nowhere, yeah, sure, maybe we'll see it. And so I was like, yeah, that'll be great. And I'm like, whoa, what the hell happened? What changed? Could it be the money aspect where you're paying him more money, so you want him to start, quote unquote, shutting down the number one receiver, which would have him travel, and you get your bang for your buck?
Well, if you're going to pay him a mega deal, you want him on these star receivers of the other team, the Justin Jeffersons, the Devante Adams of the world, to get, as you said, the bang for your buck. So maybe that plays into the decision, because let's say now, while I think he can handle man coverage duties. Let's say he has a slip up and he's not as good as he was when he was primarily in zone. Then that could factor into what they give him or what they negotiate for at the table. I would assume still he's going to get the bag unless he falls off a complete cliff. And I don't see that happening because, again, when he was at Cincinnati, you can see that he could play zone and man. So assuming that he is at least above average as he has been, I don't think that's going to affect his money. But I do think the Jets do want to see, if we're going to pay this guy over $100 million in total value, let's make sure we get the most value out of him. Go guard Justin Jefferson. Go match up against Devante Adams. Go match up against Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Detroit Lions, and let's see what you can do.
This conversation will be a lot about Sauce, but I do want to do a quick detour to DJ Reed just because he spoke this week and they asked him about his contract situation. He is going to be a free agent after this year, and the media is like, "Hey, what's going on there?" He's like, "The Jets haven't talked to me. The ball's in their court. I got no idea." But he said, "As far as I am concerned, I'm going to be a free agent, not like in a mean way, like I can't freaking wait to get out of here, but just like reading the room. He's like, it looks like I'm going to be a free agent next year, and that's fine with me. So I'm going to go get paid." Should the Jets jump on this and try to keep what some people are calling the best three corners, throw Michael Carter II in there in the slot as well, the top trio together? Or is this, hey, you got to, save your shekels, pick where you got to go? And DJ Reed, unfortunately, he's just one of the guys that enjoyed the initial contract, but someone else is going to pay him after that.
See, this is the tough thing, and I wanted to bring this up. The Jets are going to have a projected $58.3 million next year. We don't know what the salary cap is going to look like, but they have several defensive backs who are going to be free agents next year, including, DJ Reed. So Sauce is the priority. You want to pay your best player in the secondary first. And then you see, okay, what do we have left over? Do we have to add pieces here? Do we have to restructure here? Because, we all know you can manipulate the cap space. If you really want to keep a good player, you can make room for that good player. We'll see what DJ Reed looks like this upcoming season. I had the Jets duo as the number 3 duo in the league. So I have great respect for DJ Reed as I do for Sauce Gardner, but it's all relative. If DJ Reed can get the bag in free agency and the Jets saying, well, we'll give you a little bit less, you're going to have to take a hometown discount to stay, though. It's up to him. Now, he's going to say the ball's in their court because they haven't talked to him. But once the contracts come rolling in, once the offers come rolling in, the ball's going to be in his court because I'm sure the Jets are going to offer him something. But he's also going to be able to hit the market and probably make more from another team who's going to be willing to pay him a little bit more than the Jets, who also have to pay Sauce Gardner. Who knows what else they're going to have to pay for next offseason.
Let's bounce around a little. Let's go through the Moton library of Bleacher Report articles. And I noticed one, I was like, ooh, I can't wait to read this one. It was, 5 running backs who could win their first NFL rushing title in 2024. I'm like, okay, scroll. Was there if you watch a Rich Eisen show at the end of his top 5 list, he has this sound effect that goes, one more. And he's like, all right, I'll give you one more. Like, I was waiting for that, perhaps, like Ashton Kutcher to come out and say I'm getting punked. Where the hell is Breece Hall? Moton? The hell?
Yes, I thought about Breece Hall. He would probably be 6 or 7. I was only allowed 5 slots. But the reason I didn't have Breece Hall in my top 5 is simple because, one, I strongly believe this is going to be an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, even though God knows where he is right now. Once he's back with the Jets, it is going to be an Aaron Rodgers-led offense. Not to say that they'll completely forget about the run game, but I think a lot of the Jets are probably going to rank near or close to the top 10 in pass attempts because you want to squeeze that orange as much as you can out of Aaron Rodgers while you have him, even though he's coming off of a significant injury. The other thing is the Jets did draft a running back. So there's
several,
going to be
as a matter of fact,
multiple. So there's going to be a split workload in that backfield, and Breece Hall may not be the workhorse running back. We don't see a lot of workhorse running backs in the league today, not like we saw 15, 20 years ago. So this isn't a knock on Breece Hall because I strongly could see him having over 1,500 scrimmage yards, passing and rushing. But between Aaron Rodgers leading that offense and the guys they have in that backfield, and he's probably gonna have to split touches with those guys, I don't see Breece Hall as a strong candidate to win the rushing title. But if a guy goes down, Aaron Rodgers isn't what he was over the past few years, and they kind of lean on the run game a little bit more, it could happen. He just wasn't in my top 5 as one of the stronger candidates and some of the workhorse running backs that I had on that list, like Bijan Robinson. You heard news that they're going to feed Bijan Robinson. They
Thank
came
God.
out and said they're going to feed him the football. Aaron Jones is going to Minnesota where he doesn't have a comparative running back next to him. I know Aaron Jones is about 30 years old, further along in his career, but there's not much competition for touches. So what I was looking for in that piece was running backs who are more workhorse running backs are not going to have to play in offenses where the quarterback may dominate the scheme. So that's why Breece Hall wasn't in the top 5. But if I were to do a top 7, the top 6, Breece Hall would get an honorable mention from me.
Oh, okay. So Breece Hall not on list. Moton not invited to cookout. Great. Okay. It had nothing to do with that, but I just want to make sure I get that on my list before I forgot. Anywho, again, we're speaking of Mo Gashdarn Moton here of Bleacher Report here on the program. It's we're having a good time. Sometimes, as this is regarded. I do want to get into your Raiders a little bit because, a popular, for a long time on ESPN Bets, the popular pick for the Jets, who were originally at 10, they traded back with the Vikings to 11 before they ultimately took Olu Fashanu. The most bet pick for the Jets was Brock Bowers. Jets don't get him. And the Raiders get our leftovers. So ultimately, I'm just kind of curious what has been the reception for Brock Bowers, especially since the year before they take Michael Mayer, who apparently was also another guy the Jets were apparently drooling over. So, there's some action happening there. What has been the reception for Brock Bowers? Because it's a polarizing pick to a lot of people. There are people that see Brock Bowers, the talent, and they're like, holy freaking crap, this guy's amazing. But there's a lot of people stuck in the labels that they see a tight end drafted very high, and they're like, look at these other tight ends in history. And there's very few outside of like Sam Laporta that have like come in and just boom, maybe Kyle Pitts with the overall numbers, but like very few have come in and just lived up to the billing. What has the reception been from Raiders fans?
Funny how that works. Jets and Raiders squabbling over pass catchers, right? Wink, wink. But initially, Paul, I will be honest with you, Raiders fans weren't happy with the pick simply because, as you pointed out, they moved up to draft Michael Mayer last year, right? Then you draft another tight end, and I use air quotes to say tight end, and Brock Bowers. And if you look at the label, you would say that's a luxury pick. We have Michael Mayer, and he wasn't terrible last year, just didn't have the quarterback to get him the football. So why do we need Brock Bowers? We needed, maybe another offensive tackle, maybe, a defensive player on the back end, a cornerback. Why go for Brock Bowers? And I remember being live when the pick happened, and I couldn't stop laughing because I was surprised in a good way, because the Raiders usually surprise me in a terrible bad way. But this was a good surprise because I don't see Brock Bowers as your prototypical tight end. He lined up mostly in the slot at Georgia. So you can move him around. He's your offensive chess piece. He's your queen on a chessboard. I don't mean to call him queen, but you know what I mean. He's the versatile. He's the most versatile piece that you're going to have on your offense. He's not just a tight end. He could be an oversized wide receiver. He could be your fullback. He can lead blocks for you. A lot of people underestimated his blocking scheme because his catches were highlighted, but he can also block very well too. Can he add maybe 10 pounds of muscle to that frame? Because he's about 245 at Georgia. You get to the NFL, you got to add some bulk to handle the big boys, but I think he can do that. So he's a versatile piece, and I had to talk a lot of Raider fans off the ledge about this and saying, look, if you look at him as just a tight end, it's going to be a disappointment. You're going to look at it as a luxury pick. But if you look at him as a versatile offensive chess piece, then you're going to realize that the Raiders but they got the best player on the board when they picked at 13, because the quarterbacks were gone. 6 quarterbacks go before the Raiders get on the board. As we know, they have a quarterback question. They didn't want to reach at any other position. They got their offensive lineman in JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, in the second round. I thought he was a first rounder, but they get a tight end, air quotes again, who has all pro potential very early in his career. You talked about how hard it is for tight ends to transition from college to the pros. I think Brock Bowers can make that transition and dare I say, eventually become a Hall of Famer just because of what he's done. He's the only 2-time John Mackey Award winner for most outstanding tight end in college football. The only tight end ever to do that. Now he's coming into the NFL with an offense that has Devante Adams, wink, wink, Jacoby Myers, and other weapons there. So he's not going to be the focal point of that offense. He's going to be able to win those one-on-one matchups downfield in the passing game. And also, again, as I said, clear lanes for the running attack. So the Raiders got a slam dunk with that pick. Again, pleasantly surprised as opposed to the last few years where I was dreading what the pick was going to turn into and be right that it was probably a bust.
Mo, I've been there. And oh boy, all right, any of these 5 players the Jets select, this is going to be terrific. And then, who was that? What page do we turn it to? Who was that? Oh yeah, man, we've been there for sure, and you've been hinting at it. And Devante Adams, squabbling Jets Raiders over a pass catcher. And first off, all the people that I see on my social media that continue to tag you in things. Do you love that? Do you hate that? Has that become a running joke? How do you view that? Because I just see it all the time, whether it's my guy Joe Caparoso, me, there's other people that I see do it every once in a while. What's your reaction to that when you get that notification on the phone?
Joe Caparoso did it recently, and I missed it, and I didn't want to respond because I was like maybe a week late to respond to it. Shout out to Joe who did it last time, but I always smile when I see those. Because people understand the running joke between Jets fans on your side, Raiders fans on my side, and some Raiders fans give you a lot of crap when you do it. But it's all in jest. It's all in fun. And I actually enjoy it because for people to actually get it, that we do this often but with Devante Adams conversation that goes back seasons now. Because I've gone on multiple Jets shows, and that was the first question that was asked of me. Hey, do you think Devante goes to New York? And I was on this show, and I was on multiple shows, and I kept telling you all, I think I gave it a 0.001% chance. And some people laughed at me. Yeah, and some people laughed at me. And some people laughed at me. But you know what, Paul? Some Jets fans are not letting it go. They're reading the press clippings from Devante Adams, and they can see that he's a little apprehensive, a little uncertain about what the Raiders' offense is going to be with Luke Getsy and Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So there are still some people out there that say Devante Adams is unhappy. If the Raiders have a losing record by the upcoming trade deadline, do the Jets still, even though they got Mike Williams, even though they got Garrett Wilson, even though they drafted Malachi Corley, do they still go after Devante Adams if he is in the trade chatter discussion? And there, I will say, Paul, there are Jets fans that won't let it go. But I will say one thing really quick, that Tom Telesco, the Raiders GM, did say that not interested in trading Devante Adams. He's a Raider. Devante Adams has gone on the record as saying, if I wanted to go somewhere else, I would have left already. This is where I want to be. Now, Devante Adams has 2 non-guaranteed years left on his contract. If Tom Telesco is serious about Devante Adams being a Raider for the long haul, and Devante Adams is serious about being a Raider for the long haul, they need to restructure his contract so he gets their guaranteed money and basically send a message to the league. He is not up on the trade block.
Yeah, there's a lot of people with everything that has happened, because a lot of that Devante Adams conversation, as you mentioned, goes back years. So like when the Jets got Mike Williams, like, oh boy, that seems like if that would have been a spot for Devante, it would have been Devante, not Mike Williams. Oh, wow, they draft Malachi Corley, this third-round draft choice that they trade up for, and they had been trying to trade him. It's hard to see the spot that it would fill anyway, even if the Raiders were receptive, certainly to a trade. So a lot of that, so let's say 100% of Jet fans were like, oh, yeah, Devante Adams is happening. And then Mike Williams signs, all right, maybe 70%. Like, maybe you can still have it. Malachi Corley, maybe it's 50%. Like, it just has continued to go down. And there's some people that have just waved away. Okay, it's just not happening. All right, thanks, everybody. It's the end of a set. See ya. And then they walk off stage. It's over. But there are a lot of Jet fans. Joe Caparoso, speaking of, on his podcast, Badlands, with Connor Rodgers, a good buddy, former Bleacher Report brethren of yours. And he said, so Joe is one of the ones, oh, yeah, it's happening, baby. I've got a feeling. And he said that he believes that this is what's going to happen, that the season's going to happen. The Raiders are not going to be very good early on. There'll be whatever he said, 1-4, 1-5, whatever the crazy record is, with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Yikes, good luck with that. But you're going to have that at quarterback at the beginning, and the Jets are going to be really good. And the Raiders are going to be like, geez, the non-guaranteed money you were talking about. Well, boy, man, we don't want to lose Devante for nothing. Eventually, at some point in the future, the value's only going to get down. You know what? F it, let's trade him. And Joe said that when the Raiders call, the offer for 2 future third-round picks will be waiting on the table for them to take for Devante Adams. So I'm glad that we got you on the show after that happened, because I wanted to ask you that again, that offer. It's hot. It's on one of those little. I went to a Texas Roadhouse recently. They have the buns. They're just kind of sitting in that little oven. They're keeping them warm before they go out to the lovely customer. Those 2 third-round pick buns are sitting right there in the warmer, Mel. when you guys are ready to press the button.
Think I'll go to another restaurant and order something different if I'm the Raiders, because let's say, okay, let's play that game. Let's say the Raiders start off 1-5, or whatever the case may be by the trade deadline, 1-6, 2-6, whatever the case is. If the Jets are offering future thirds, and then let's say you have, I don't know, the Dallas Cowboys who say, okay, we're willing to give you a second because we're trying to win now. Dak Prescott's in the last year of his contract. Mike McCarthy's in the last year of his contract. We're a little bit desperate. We'll give you a second for Devante Adams. I'm sure that Devante Adams, even though he's 31 years old, going to be 32 next year, he could still garner a pretty decent market for a team that's in the playoff hunt. Now, if you're waiting to the offseason, that price probably drops down. But if you're a team that wants to make a second half push in the season, I would say a second round pick would be where I start the conversation. The Raiders and Cowboys have done business recently in terms of the wide receiver. The Raiders traded Amari Cooper to the Dallas Cowboys, and that worked out well for them, for the Dallas Cowboys. So I could see the Dallas Cowboys calling again. They have Brandon Cooks there, but he's up there in age too. But he's no Devante Adams. Let's be honest. And can you imagine CeeDee Lamb and Devante Adams in the same offense in that Cowboys offense? That would be crushing for teams to try to defend. But I can see a team like the Cowboys or a team that's in the playoff hunt calling and offering a second and trumping your proposal there, Paul.
Okay, so thanks, but no thanks. Yeah, tempting, but no on the offer. I can respect that. There was another recent article from, we will go away from Devante. That's totally happening later this season. We'll go away from that and go to a different topic of choice. And you did like a panic meter for potential training camp holdouts that could be happening across the league. There's a lot of them. Mandatory minicamp skippage from old CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, T. Higgins, all kinds of players. One of the players on the list was, Haason Reddick, who the New York Jets traded for earlier this offseason for a future third-round pick. So don't hate it till you try it. But anywho, Haason Reddick for that conditional future third-round draft choice. You had the panic meter at a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10. Do tell, we'd love another take on this Haason Reddick situation, where he seems quite displeased with his current contract situation.
So I gave it a 6, not for the reason that I think it's going to be a lengthy holdout, because there are severe penalties for players who are not on rookie deals holding out. That's why you have this holding in business now, where a player will show up and not practice all the way or practice in full. My issue with this was the Jets made this awkward and more sloppy than it had to be, right? So usually when a player wants a new deal and a team acquires that player, usually one of the first things you hear, they give that player a new contract. Like, that's almost announced along with the trade. This is what the Giants did with Brian Burns. Brian Burns wanted a new contract from the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers said, no, sir. So they traded him to the Giants, and what did they do? One of the first things they do, gave him a new contract. So if you're the Jets, and I assume the Jets knew he wanted a new contract, because this is out in the open. This is in the media. Eagles beat reporters were talking about this. Haason Reddick is probably going to want a new contract. Look at his sack numbers. The Jets, knowing this, that should have been one of the first things that they did upon acquiring him and essentially replacing Bryce Huff with him, is signing him to a new deal. So now he's missing, practices and mandatory minicamp, which to me isn't a huge deal because this guy's a veteran. Defenses usually come along pretty quickly. You're blowing stuff up. You're being disruptive. It's not like an offense where I feel like offense is more important for the offensive players to be there. Haason Reddick will be fine once he gets on the field. My problem was, how come the Jets didn't straighten this out from the jump? Why did they drag this out and made this a little more messy and awkward than it had to be? And that's why I gave it a 6. That's a panic meter for the organization on the process of acquiring Haason Reddick and not giving him a new deal.
And hopefully, again, they got 40 or 41, depending on your math, the days between mandatory minicamp and the start of training camp to figure it out. So right now, it's I described it as either a nuisance or an inconvenience. And so far, he skipped the voluntary and skipped the mandatory. It's like kind of annoying, but like not annoying. Like, how could you do this? Like, I understand it. I mean, like from us covering it, it's somewhat annoying that hasn't been figured out. But like training camp is when it gets a lot more serious. The relationship goes to another level. You're like, oh boy, okay, now we're not playing around anymore. This 40 days went by pretty quick. Let's see what's happening. That's going to be the real pivot point. There is a lot of people asking. Phil ask, hey Paul, Hall can smell if he knows where Rodgers is hiding. And it sounds like, according to the latest reporting, shout out to Connor Hughes, that he is out of the country. And he was aware, apparently, that the Jets, when he told them months ago, hey, I ain't going to be there, he pulled his Magic Johnson. I'm not going to be there. The Jets went, okay, well, we're not going to excuse that absence, and but you could go do whatever trip you want to. You're Aaron Rodgers. So he went, okay, see ya. So he's out of the country, according to Connor Hughes, and he doesn't want to disclose his location for security reasons, is what Connor Hughes said. Connor Hughes, excuse me. I might have said Connor Rodgers there a few times. Connor Hughes of SNY, he said he's out of the country and does not want to disclose his location for security reasons. Maybe he'll get mauled in, Guatemala or wherever the hell he is right now, apparently, if that location squeaks out. What is your take on the Aaron Rodgers thing? Because there's been a lot of people that are like, oh, geez, look, another Aaron Rodgers Jets thing, clown show over there. And some people have been like, it's whatever. So where do you stand in all this?
By the way, Aaron Rodgers and I may have had a hot dog at a Schwarzburg or somewhere over in, Brooklyn. I'm kidding.
Oh,
but no, but I knew this was going to come up. And this is my take on the whole Aaron Rodgers situation, because it's being blown up over social media. And I'm not saying this just because I'm on the Jets show, but it's a bigger discussion than what it has to be. And I will say it's partially Aaron Rodgers' fault, though. He has that soundbite where he basically says, you got to focus on football and leave the other, BS aside. Had he not said that, people, I don't think, would have made a big deal of this, because Sauce Gardner came out on the X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and he says, basically, why are we making a big deal of this? Aaron Rodgers was there for the earlier phases of OTAs. He misses mandatory minicamp. Everyone loses their mind. And that's kind of my take. Was it wasn't like he skipped the whole spring session. He has been there, and he's skipping mandatory minicamp. Now mandatory makes it a little more serious. But had he not had that soundbite where he said, you got to leave everything else kind of out of the door and focus on just football, we wouldn't be talking about it at this level. Now, because he has that soundbite, it's construed as, okay, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to forget about everything else, and you're just going to be strictly focused on football until the season is over, or until you have that break between mandatory minicamp and training camp. And that's not the case. So now people are going to jump on him and say, remember what you said before. Leave all the BS aside. Where are you now? You got mandatory minicamp, and now you have an unexcused absence, even though you let the team know that you were going to have this absence beforehand. That soundbite is what gets him in trouble, but it's a bigger deal than what it has to be.
There's a movie. I'm not sure. Let me ask you, have you seen the movie Year One with Jack Black, Mo? Have you seen that movie?
I have not, because I am the worst person to ask about movies, because I barely watch TV.
Well, that's okay. Wow. Good for you. That's healthy for your family and your relationships. But anywho, during the movie, it's basically Jack Black as a caveman back in the old times. It's a funny movie. But anywho, one of the things happens is he takes a bite of the forbidden fruit, the Adam Eve apple thing, and he's getting in trouble. And then he goes to this one guy as he's in prison. He's like, well, what's going on here? And he's like, dude, it was forbidden. And then Jack Black went, well, the word forbidden, it implies a little wiggle room. And the guy goes, there's no wiggle room. It is forbidden. So now with mandatory minicamp, there's a little wiggle room with mandatory. Right? No, mandatory. It is mandatory. So that's kind of the feelings I've got with all this. But again, what is really going to happen is some seeds have been planted here in the garden. I wish no seeds had been planted, but seeds have been planted. If the Jets are kicking ass and they're 5-1, 6-0, and Aaron Rodgers is throwing balls all over the place, like, this guy's going great. But if it's the other side, they're like 2-4, and Rodgers looking a little off, people are like, missed that mandatory minicamp, didn't you, pal? Which makes no sense whatsoever, because what could possibly have 2 random-ass June light, no padded practices have anything to do with then? But I know that those are the seeds that are planted. I've been in this market long enough. I know that's going to come back up, but that's it. Another story, though. The Jets always keep it interesting, which thankfully I appreciate the content here on a daily New York Jets program, but that's
really quick, I was just going to say, one thing that Raiders and Jets have in common over the past decade, they make the offseason very intriguing. There's always an intriguing storyline no matter what, whether the team is projected to be, 2-15, 2-14, or 15-2, 14-2. There's always an intriguing, weird, odd, out of the box storyline going on between the Jets and Raiders. Always, always, always.
Yep, it keeps things interesting. All right, everybody, for the second half of the show, we will open up the phone lines, and you can ask Mo. God, I might regret opening up this forbidden door, but you can ask Mo whatever question you like, or for perhaps a YouTube super chat feature. You could guarantee you get your comment answered here on the show. I just put that in the comments section. It's also the pinned message on YouTube if you guys would like to ask some questions to Mo Moton. And again, don't make me regret that if you can, people. So feel free to enjoy that feature again that is pinned on the top of YouTube. We're also streaming live on the Heavy on Jets Facebook page. Shout out to Heavy, our overlords, and Twitter at BoyGreen25 as well, baby. Keeping this train rolling. As those are starting to populate in the feed with the questions and calls here, Mo, I do have to ask you, what do you believe? Be straight with me. It's just me and you here. No one else is watching. Forget the hundreds and thousands and millions of listeners. The Raiders, what are they going to be this year? Good? Bad? What?
Man, I got a lot. I caught a lot of heat for this when I was on my Bleacher Report Live. I have the Raiders going 8-9 this year. The quarterback position concerns me, honestly. Gardner Minshew, while he almost led the Colts to the playoffs last year, almost doesn't count. He was a Pro Bowler, but the Pro Bowl, label is kind of hollow in certain situations. I believe he had 15 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. Now, he was really good under Shane Steichen, but Shane Steichen is regarded as one of the top play callers in the league. He's going from Shane Steichen, who's the Colts head coach, offensive play caller, to Luke Getsy, who has a lot to prove. Luke Getsy hasn't fielded a good offense with the Chicago Bears over the last 2 years. Struggled with Justin Fields. Some of that is on Justin Fields, but Luke Getsy has a lot to prove. Now, he's familiar with Devante Adams. He was a wide receivers coach and I believe a passing game coordinator while Devante Adams was in Green Bay. So there is a relationship there. But it's the quarterback position that has to flourish for the Raiders in order for them to get over the hump. If Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell are barely average, that offense, even with its offensive playmakers, even with Devante Adams, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Brock Bowers, who we talked about, Michael Mayer, Samir White, who's coming on as a running back, even with all those playmakers, your quarterback has to put those guys in position to make plays. And if the point guard of your football team, your quarterback, is below average, the offense is going to have a low ceiling. It's kind of like a basketball team. If the point guard is not good or below average, that offense isn't going to run as efficiently as it would with a quality point guard. It's the same thing with a football team and a quarterback. So that's my main reason why I feel like the Jets, I should say the Raiders, are going to be 8-9. Now the Jets, I know you didn't ask this, but I have the Jets at 10-7. So for the people in the chat, if you're going to ask about my Jets prediction for the season, 10-7. Rodgers coming off of an injury kind of concerns me a bit, but I think they'll be fine with that defense because I've watched a lot. As I said, I'm in New York City. I've watched a lot of Jet games. And how many times have I looked at the TV and said, if only the Jets had a serviceable quarterback? We don't need, you guys don't need, you people out there don't need MVP Aaron Rodgers. You just need a good Aaron Rodgers to get to the playoffs. And I think they'll get that this year.
By the way, would your 10-7 prediction, would that be good enough for the AFC East crown or no?
No. Jets fans are going to throw tomatoes at me, but I have the Dolphins 1 win ahead of the Jets. 1 win above the Jets.
Well, that's within the vicinity. We'll get back to that Dolphin stuff in a minute. That's popular in the chat as well. But we'll go to the phone lines here. And you mentioned a good point guard is key. I'm a great point guard here on the program. I'm dishing all over the gosh darn place. That's why the show's been so friggin' successful, obviously, with awards and nominations and everything else all over the gambit. But let's go to the phone lines. NY Jets FL gracing us with his presence. What's up, NY?
Morning, gentlemen. You're gonna get me on first after the 10-7 comment, huh? I have to say, if we go 10-7 without any kind of significant injuries, that would be, in my opinion, that would be almost close to a failure. I'm looking at 12, maybe 12 wins. And my original question was, and I think I know the answer now based on your 10-7 opinion. I thought Kansas City, the Jets would be the team that would be the closest to them. So, in your opinion, in terms of talent, in your opinion, Mo, what teams behind Kansas City do you feel are the most challenges to them for the FC number one? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Number one, you got to start with the Houston Texans. I think what they did with CJ Stroud, they add Stephon Diggs. I know he could be a headache after a few years, but 1 year of Stephon Diggs is pretty good for what the Houston Texans have going right now. They added Daniil Hunter on the defensive line. That defense is already stout with D'Amico Ryans, who's in San Francisco. He showed he could still be a defensive guru with the Texans. So they have a pretty balanced team. With all that talent, they added Joe Mixon at running back. So they have a balanced team. I've looked over their roster, and it's hard to find holes on the Texans roster. I've tried to poke holes in it, and it's hard for me. Now, I mentioned the Dolphins, right? And with the Dolphins, it all hinges upon if Tua can stay healthy. Now, that's my biggest question. If Tua goes down, for a handful of games, the Jets take the crown in the AFC East. I made that prediction based on players being healthy because, of course, I'm not wishing injury on anyone. I'm assuming these players are going to play most of the season. If Tua stays healthy, I think the Dolphins have an edge there, simply because there's continuity there. I like what Mike McDaniel's doing with their offense. The other thing about the Jets and the 10-7 comment is Nathaniel Hackett. Can we be honest about Nathaniel Hackett? Is there any real concern for you about Nathaniel Hackett? Because I remember a report coming out from Connor Hughes of SNY saying that the Jets were considering replacing him as a play caller. So that tells me that the Jets have concerns about their offensive coordinator, and that's a big deal. That's a huge deal for me.
Can I counter on the Houston comment? They played a last place schedule. And if you go and look last year, and if you look at the brutal schedule they have this year, I mean, they play the Dolphins, they play the Cowboys, they play the Lions. They have a ridiculously tough schedule.
They got to play the Jets too. Ridiculous. I just want to make sure I got that there on the list. Ridiculous.
Right. I can honestly see, and I made this point previously, I can honestly see teams not making the playoffs the following year after a great year. And I know everyone loves CJ, and he proved himself to be a really good first-year quarterback. Let's see if he can duplicate that against the big boys. If he does that, then I'll give him his kudos. I don't know where to go from here. I understand your points. I'll let other people get on the call. So I appreciate it, Paul. Thank you, Mo.
Thank you.
Appreciate you calling in.
All right, there we go. All right, let's dive back into the phone lines here. We've got Johnny Boy here on the program. Good morning, Johnny.
Boy Green, what's up, man? What's going on, Mo? Nice to meet you.
What's going on? Nice to meet you too, Johnny Boy.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. As you've noticed, we have a crazy bunch of crazy, I won't say it because we have guests currently. So
it's very nice.
I've been told to watch myself, right? I've learned, but. Bro, we're going 14 wins, dog. Like it is happening. If you look at a schedule and you look at it, you're gonna be like, they need to win this game. They should win this game. I mean, I got us losing San Francisco. Everybody keeps, killing me in regards to that. I originally had us losing at Houston with Houston until CJ Stroud opened his mouth and reawoken that inner dog in Aaron Rodgers, talking all this junk as if Aaron Rodgers does not have a freaking track record, the record that he has, right? Point. So, and then the other one was at Buffalo, because I still think to this day it's still difficult to win at Buffalo, especially during that time when we play them again. The Tua situation, I hope that they sign Tua for like $60 million every single year for like 10 years. Because that guy has not proven that he could beat a team that is over 500. So we'll go from ain't nobody scared of the Dolphins. Are you scared of a Dolphin? Like if somebody comes to you, yo, bro, you got to play the Dolphin next year. Like it's a Dolphin, bro. It's horrible. And the one team that I could say that I think is somewhat okay and what they're building over there, and as much as I don't like to say this, is your Raiders, man. They have stuff there that's in place, and then what your coach is doing, dude. I like a player's coach, man, and he's an individual that is going to. How can I put it in words? Like when Devante Adams came out and said what he said about that spoke volumes to me, because I was like, holy crap! Like Antonio Pierce got him playing, like he knows what's going on. You guys just need another quarterback, because the guy you guys have right now is not it, and you guys got him. Minshew was good, man. He's underrated. A lot of people don't talk about him and stuff because if he was with us last year when we had the whole Achilles scare of our life, we would be talking something different this year as well. And then the Hackett, I can't talk bad about Hackett, like, because when you watch the film and you watch the games, there was people open. We just had a quarterback that was dirting every single throw to people's ankles and feet. It was the craziest thing. Conklin had to like shift his body to some insane type of way when he would catch these balls and then do something with the ball afterwards. So this year with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be a different story. I mean, let's be honest. He's going to be the offensive coordinator. I mean, even Edward Ziff, our offensive coordinator right now, right, for the coffee crew in the morning. Shout out to my uncle.
Yeah.
Would be an amazing offensive coordinator with the New York Jets. So, Mo, I asked you, and I said all this, right? Who do you think wins the AFC?
Ooh, who do I think wins the AFC?
The conference.
I didn't mention it. No, I didn't mention this on the previous call. These two teams, the Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals, are two teams I'd keep an eye on. Now, assuming Joe Burrow is healthy. But let's remember, Bengals were in the Super Bowl not too long ago. And the last caller said, the Texans are going to play a tougher schedule. Same goes for the Ravens this upcoming season. Now, they're a perennial playoff contender. They're usually in the mix, but they're going to play a tougher schedule. Lamar Jackson dropped some weight. I don't really like that behind a makeshift offensive line. They got a lot of offensive line changes. I think the Ravens are going to take a step back. But the Bengals, if Joe Burrow stays healthy, I think they go back and win the AFC again and get back to the Super Bowl.
Awesome. Well, look, Mo, I appreciate you. Boy Green, it's always a pleasure. Thank you to the entire coffee crew for wishing me a happy birthday.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Happy birthday, Johnny.
Hey, if you get a chance, Boy Green, we were on last night with Proud New York Jets till 3:00 in the morning.
Oh my God.
He is so miserable in this show. He's hating life and everything, but everybody's singing happy birthday. It was the craziest and the most amazing thing. Hey, our Jets community, Mo, if you can't tell, we're such a close-knit community, man. So I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much. And hey, man, there's only one nation, and that's Jets Nation, baby. Go Jets.
He had to leave with that one.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you, Johnny, for that, which I guess I'm obligated to hit this. Ooh, that cut deep there at the end of that call, Mel. Ooh.
Yeah, you can't leave with one nation. Come on, we all know Raider Nation is the only nation in the NFL. Raider Nation is the one and only nation. Jets, you're gonna have to find a new, whatever the synonym is for a nation that's best rhymes with Jets. You're gonna have to roll with that one because Raider Nation is Raider Nation and the only nation in the NFL.
And that was minutes after you wished him happy birthday, too. That was just, felt unnecessary.
You're right. It could have ended so well, but Johnny Boy had to go there.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say is I just wish some of our callers were a little bit more optimistic. Like 14, 12. I was looking more at 17-0, was trying to what I was shooting for. So, and these people were a little under today. They're a little under.
As I mentioned with the first caller, between Nathaniel Hackett and he also mentioned, we talked about schedule a lot, but the Jets, I believe, have 6 primetime games?
They do.
It's going to wear. I think that's also going to wear on them. It's tough playing under the bright lights consistently as consistently as they are going to play, and that they're going to start off the season with a lot of those primetime games. So I wouldn't be surprised with the Jets. I don't want to say start off rocky, but they drop a few games early and then pick up later in the season and go on a hot streak. I could see that definitely happening. Again, I do have the Jets as a playoff team. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of people want to say, 14 wins, 13 wins. I get it. Raider fans have come at me and said, Raiders are going to win 12 games, Mo. What are you talking about? Are you smoking? But when you look at these schedules and you look at every week, there's a surprise upset you didn't count on, and teams are on either side of that upset. And you're like, oh, how did this team beat, the Texans? How did the Jets lose to them? It happens. And especially when you're on the bright lights in prime time, I think it's tough for any team.
Yeah, by the way, just to make it as clear as possible, in the first 11 weeks of the season, the Jets have 6 primetime games and 7 standalone games, throwing the London game as well that they have there. as well.
Tough.
All right, I was about to sign up, but we have one last caller who's coming in here, so I'll squeeze this guy in, and then we'll sign off here. Let's go to Murdog here on the program. What's up, pal?
Can you guys hear me?
We got you.
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, I had to pull the truck over. Mo, you're bugging.
Oh,
10-7? Yeah,
10-7.
Don't worry, I found him. Because you definitely lost your gosh darn bananas, bro. 10-7? Here you go. I'll give it back to you. You have to be. If you're talking about no injuries whatsoever and 10-7 with a top 5 roster in the NFL, yeah, hack it. If you don't think Rodgers is running that offense, come on, man. No matter what Hackett calls Aaron Sicard. 10-7, 4-2 at minimum in the division. 4-2 no matter what. Where are these losses? Who's beating us? Forget about San Francisco. Even if they lose, that's 1. Where are the other 6 losses coming from? How do you figure?
Birdog, I got a question. When Aaron Rodgers was the guy in Green Bay, what did the Green Bay Packers do? How many wins did the Green Bay Packers have in Aaron Rodgers' last full season as a starter? With a better play caller. How many wins?
what was it, 8?
It was 8-9 wins. Missed the playoffs. Lost to the Detroit Lions the last week of the season. They had a chance to win and go to the playoffs. And what happened? All I'm saying is, while Aaron Rodgers is still a good quarterback, I don't think he'll still be the MVP version of Aaron Rodgers. So that's my question. The play caller, Aaron Rodgers, coming off a serious injury, not the same player he was a few years ago. That's why I have him at 10-7.
Sorry, Paulie, I can't hear. I don't know if it's or not.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't hear. I don't know. I'll replay it and watch it. I don't know how you tried to justify it, but I'm sure you did somehow. But come on, bro. We got to get with it. 10-7.
I'll be back, Murdo, to talk about it. I'll be back.
He's like, what?
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Thanks for the call, Murdog. That talking to whoever's also in the truck apparently is not agreeing and not even a Jets fan. So, wow. Man, Mo, you've really gotten from Murdog. You've really gotten some intimacy with our Jet fans. That's good to see. It's good to see you getting in the trenches, pal. Yeah.
Hey, I got Jets fans in the family, so this is nothing that's said to me on these calls is new to me.
Well, Mo, it was a pleasure having you on the show and interacting with our great unwashed, with us Jet fans here on the program. What do you have coming up for the summer? Any big vacations? Any Bleacher Report plans? What's going on?
Well, after I find Aaron Rodgers, I think I'll sit down and pen an article on the over-unders. So for you betting folks out there, betting over-unders on wins, I'll have one for the entire league where I'll take the over or under for every team. So as you know, I have the Jets at 10-7. So you can go take a look at your nearest sports book and place your bets. You can fade me and say, over, or you can ride with me and say under and make some money. Your choice.
All right. You love to see it or not. Anywho, thanks to everybody for tuning in for Boy Green Daily here on a wonderful Friday edition. Make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody, and thanks again to Moton for joining us here on the show. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.